Every time his toddler returned from Grandma's house, something felt off. She was unusually tired, withdrawn, and quiet. At first, the father chalked it up to a long day of play, but his gut told him there was more to the story. What he eventually uncovered didn't just confirm his fears, it put Grandma behind bars. Dennis and Judy were glued to their baby girl, hearts sinking as they watched her growing weaker. She was unusually lethargic and had developed a low-grade fever. Judy was beside herself with worry, while Dennis gently pressed a damp cloth to their daughter's forehead, hoping to bring her some relief. Then a troubling realization hit him. Ever since his mother-in-law had begun babysitting, their baby's health had been on a steady decline. Dennis and Judy James, a devoted couple living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, were the proud parents of their 1-year-old daughter, Charlotte. To Dennis, she was the sweetest little girl in the world, and being her father felt like a dream come true. From the moment Judy announced her pregnancy, he had wished for a baby girl, imagining Sundays spent cheering on the Pittsburgh Steelers together. Now, those dreams were becoming a beautiful reality. Dennis eagerly looked forward to the day he could take his little girl to her first football game. She just needed to be a bit older. In the meantime, he and Judy treasured every moment with their 1-year-old, whose bright smile and joyful spirit lit up their world. But all too soon, that happiness would begin to fade. It was getting to the point where Judy needed to return to work, so the new parents had to find daycare for Charlotte. However, Judy was unsettled by the idea of her daughter being surrounded by strangers so soon. Honestly, it bothers me that she would be around so many strangers. Why don't we ask my mom to babysit? Judy suggested. She knows how to look after a baby, and Charlotte adores her grandma. Dennis wasn't thrilled about Judy's idea. While he cared for Julia, he often felt she overstepped. Still, Charlotte lit up whenever her grandma visited, so Dennis agreed. At first, everything seemed fine. Charlotte appeared happy. But over time, Dennis noticed changes. His daughter was constantly tired, less playful, and distant. The once lively toddler now sat quietly in Julia's arms, her usual joy fading away. Dennis became increasingly worried. His gut told him something was very wrong. Concerned, he and Judy took Charlotte to the pediatrician for a checkup. After a thorough examination, the doctor gave Charlotte a clean bill of health. He suggested her lethargy could be due to the teething stage approaching. Dennis and Judy were relieved to hear Charlotte wasn't seriously ill, but things didn't return to normal. For 2 days, she was back to her bubbly self, then suddenly she slipped back into exhaustion. Dennis couldn't shake the feeling that something more was going on. When he voiced his concern, Judy believed it was just teething, as the doctor suggested. Still, Dennis wasn't convinced. Charlotte's behavior didn't make sense, and deep down, he suspected Julia might be involved. Whether it was poor nap routines or something else entirely, he knew he had to get answers. That evening, he decided he would confront Julia once and for all. Doubt had crept into Dennis' mind when he connected Charlotte's odd behavior to the time Julia had started babysitting regularly. He hoped his mother-in-law was consistently giving the baby the teething medication prescribed by the pediatrician. However, when he shared his concerns about Charlotte's health with Julia, she reassured him that she was taking every precaution and that he didn't need to worry. Julia mentioned she'd been adding special herbal teas to Charlotte's juice, claiming they would boost the baby's health. Though skeptical, Dennis researched and found small amounts weren't typically harmful, so he reluctantly agreed. But as the weeks passed, Charlotte's condition worsened. She lost weight, grew pale, and her lively eyes dulled. Alarmed, Dennis and Judy grew desperate. Judy suggested another doctor visit, but Julia strongly objected, insisting the teas just needed more time. Torn between supporting his wife and trusting his instincts, Dennis finally decided to act alone. Something wasn't right, and he couldn't ignore it any longer. One day, while Julia was not home, Dennis took Charlotte to the pediatrician in secret. During the checkup, the doctor was stunned. The weight loss and sluggishness were symptoms of acute malnutrition. The baby was immediately rushed to the hospital for a more thorough examination and treatment. Dennis was devastated. He blamed himself for not acting sooner, and the doctor's grim news about Charlotte shattered him. She was his whole world, and seeing her so fragile was unbearable. This couldn't have come out of nowhere. He and Judy had done everything to care for her, but what was happening when Julia was alone with her? Sitting in the hospital waiting room, Dennis was overwhelmed with guilt and confusion. They had trusted Julia to feed Charlotte properly during the day, but now, that trust felt horribly misplaced. What had Julia exposed their child to? His thoughts returned to the herbal teas. When he first researched them, they seemed reasonably harmless. But now he began to doubt everything. Could Julia have been adding something else, something she kept secret from them? Charlotte had been a healthy, happy baby, until Julia began caring for her regularly. Dennis couldn't ignore the pattern. Charlotte thrived on weekends with her parents but grew lethargic and sick during the week. He was deeply troubled. Though he'd always believed Julia loved her granddaughter, something didn't add up. Judy had insisted everything was fine, but Dennis' instincts screamed otherwise. Now he was sure Julia was hiding something, and Charlotte was paying the price. He prayed it wasn't too late for his daughter. Dennis couldn't shake the feeling that he had let Charlotte down. He had been unsure about Judy's suggestion to have Julia babysit instead of sending Charlotte to daycare, and now he regretted not standing his ground. What could really be happening when they left their baby girl with her grandmother? Dennis had always believed Julia cared deeply for Charlotte, but now fear gripped him. Something was terribly wrong. Sitting silently beside him, Judy was overwhelmed with emotion. She could see the heartbreak on Dennis' face, and though it pained her, she shared his suspicions. As much as she loved her mother, Charlotte came first, and Judy was certain the problem didn't lie with her or Dennis. Anxiety weighed heavily on her as they waited for test results. Dennis gently placed a hand on her back. "It's going to be okay. He's the best pediatrician in the state," he said, more to comfort himself than her. "I know. She'll be fine," Judy whispered through tears. "I just don't understand. We thought we were doing everything right." "I don't think this is on us," Dennis replied softly, his eyes filled with doubt and pain. Judy nodded. Deep down, she knew he was right. At that moment, the doctor appeared. "She's improved a little bit. We've put her on a drip, and for now, she's getting some rest. We'd like her to gain a few pounds over the next couple of days," the doctor said kindly, his voice filled with compassion for the anxious parents. Dennis took a deep, shaky breath. For the moment, he was just relieved that Charlotte was okay, though he still couldn't believe what had happened. Dennis and Judy spent the night at the hospital, ignoring Julia's repeated calls. Judy couldn't bring herself to speak to her mother. Her emotions were raw, and she feared what she might say. Neither of them slept, anxiously awaiting news about Charlotte. By morning, Judy, completely drained, went home to rest. But Dennis couldn't leave. He stayed by Charlotte's side, feeling helpless yet unwilling to be anywhere else. Mid-morning, the doctor returned with an update. "Charlotte's improving. We'd like to keep her a little longer to restore her nutrition levels," he said reassuringly. Relieved, Dennis finally felt a small wave of hope. "Go home, get some rest," the doctor encouraged. "Your daughter's going to be fine." Exhausted after more than 36 sleepless hours, Dennis stepped into his car and immediately called Judy. "Honey, is everything all right?" she asked, her voice groggy from sleep. Dennis shared the good news. Charlotte's condition was stable, and all they could do now was wait for her to recover fully. Judy was relieved, but as she woke fully, the weight of their situation hit her again. Her heart ached as she realized who was responsible for their daughter's sudden illness. "I hope you know how sorry I am," Judy said over the phone, her voice heavy with guilt. Dennis's heart ached. He knew they were both struggling. As doctors worked to stabilize Charlotte, she slowly began to recover. Dennis and Judy were relieved, but their trust in Julia was gone. Dennis was firm. Julia couldn't be around Charlotte anymore. Her so-called remedies had done enough harm. Tensions boiled over when Judy confronted her mother. It made Charlotte sick. "Stop saying and help," she shouted, tears in her voice. In frustration, she threw the herbs onto the kitchen floor. Amid the chaos, Dennis blamed himself for not stepping in sooner. Healing their family would take time, if it could happen at all. Julia remained convinced that her herbal remedies were beneficial and refused to admit fault, but the damage was done. Charlotte's health had suffered because of Julia's interference, and Dennis was beyond furious. As Charlotte slowly regained her health, Dennis and Judy vowed to protect their daughter at all costs. The ordeal had been a harrowing lesson, but their focus now was on ensuring Charlotte's full recovery, and never letting anything like this happen again. At the hospital, the family's tensions reached a boiling point. Judy was furious with her mother, and the once close bond between them felt shattered. Determined to protect Charlotte, Dennis consulted an attorney, and they decided to file a child endangerment case against Julia for using unverified herbal remedies that had endangered their daughter's life. The legal action deepened the divide, dragging the family into court battles and heated disputes. Dennis stood firm. Julia needed to be held accountable. But Julia pushed back, hiring her own lawyers and countersuing, insisting she only meant to help and was being unfairly treated. She couldn't believe she was being cast as a villain by her own family. The legal battle between the James and Julia turned into a sensational courtroom drama, attracting media attention. The family story was plastered across headlines, and everyone had an opinion on who was right and who was wrong. Dennis and Judy were steadfast in their determination to protect Charlotte from any further harm, while Julia maintained she had acted out of love and concern for her granddaughter. The courtroom battles took a heavy emotional toll on everyone. The story quickly went viral on social media, with the public divided. Many sided with Dennis and Judy, praising them for protecting Charlotte. Julia put that child at risk. Thank goodness the father stepped in, one post read. Meanwhile, supporters of natural remedies defended Julia, insisting she meant no harm. She was just using herbs to help her granddaughter. There had to be another reason the baby got sick, one commenter argued. The flood of online opinions overwhelmed the James family. While some offered support, others harshly criticized their parenting. The constant scrutiny wore on Judy's mental health, and Dennis, already caring for Charlotte, now had to support his wife through the growing stress. Eventually, the court reached a verdict. Julia was found guilty of child endangerment and sentenced to probation. Additionally, she was ordered to stay away from Charlotte for 6 months. It was a heartbreaking decision for Judy, who was torn between her love for her mother and her duty to protect her daughter. Despite her emotions, she chose to abide by the court's orders to ensure Charlotte's safety. Jody continued to visit Julia from time to time, but their relationship was never quite the same. The trust between them had been deeply fractured, and the distance only grew. Meanwhile, Dennis and Judy turned their focus to rebuilding their lives and making sure Charlotte had everything she needed. They hired a reliable nanny who gave Charlotte the care and affection that helped her flourish. As time passed, Charlotte slowly regained her strength. Her joyful spirit returned, and with the constant love and support of her parents, she blossomed into a lively, energetic toddler. The shadows of her early trauma began to lift, and her future once again shone with promise. Although Julia promised to be more cautious moving forward, Dennis and Judy knew it would take time before she could fully be a part of Charlotte's life again. Still, they were open to giving her another chance. As a family, they embraced the hard lessons from this difficult chapter, committing to put Charlotte's well-being first. While the past had left its marks, the James family was determined to heal and move ahead, building a new beginning rooted in love, trust, and hope for a brighter future. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this story. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.